flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.
Let freedom ring.
It's the American way.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
God bless America. Hello everybody, take two, because I forgot to turn my microphone on for the first one. I am the Talk Radio Protege, and this is the Protege program. The mainstream media is still reeling over Charlottesville. I thought we were supposed to pretend like nothing happened and go back to, what was the phrase? Business as usual after terrorism attacks? That's what they said after Manchester and London, right? But no, the rules only apply to the enemies of the left, and they're always changing. The narrative on Trump's statements about the violence in Charlottesville has changed 3 whole times since last Saturday when his first statement was made. But rather than flail about hitting all the points, I want to go to ground zero all the way back before the car attack happened. Sidebar, I've already made a video about this event. It hit on the responsibility for the incident, so those things will not be the primary focus of this video. A piece was published at the Daily Caller that was apparently written not by the fellow whose name appears on the article now, but by one of the organizers of the Unite the Right, hereafter known as UTR, event. I'm not interested in the commentary. What I'm interested in is the map that was posted with the article detailing the rally area and the positions of all groups involved. As you can see, police officers were posted to either side and in back of the ralliers, who were there legally, by the way. For some reason, there was also a squad of police officers in between these two pins. It appears to me that the police thought the UTR ralliers were going to be causing all the problems, so they needed to be separated into smaller groups and funneled in through these cattle chutes called exits, and kept separated just in case they all needed to be arrested very quickly all at the same time. I'll point out, each pin had only one exit, one narrow exit. It actually wouldn't surprise me if there was a leak from the governor's office where someone revealed that they wanted a riot or they wanted any pretense to arrest every single Unite the Right rallier that was there. Now, as the rally is going on, apparently UTR doesn't do anything to justify arresting them all. But here comes Antifa. They roll down Market Street, they start causing a ruckus, and they're there illegally, mind you. They did not have a permit to gather in the town. UTR did. And this causes the police chief to call the governor and ask him to declare a state of emergency. He does so, and now the police have the authority to arrest anyone that does not leave the park. But instead of doing something sensible, like letting the UTR people get away from Antifa, they drive the UTR ralliers into the waiting arms of Antifa. And as you can guess, this is about as effective as pouring vinegar into a baking soda volcano. Violence erupts, people get hurt. Apparently, a guy who's there with UTR gets into his car and plows into the crowd. Now, whether it was ignorance or incompetence that led to driving these two groups together, it was absolutely the wrong decision. It was like throwing fire into a powder keg. Both groups, Antifa and the alt-right, are disliked by mainstream Americans, so we can just say, everything that happened here was bad, let's move on. Right? That sounds reasonable. Right? Apparently not! On Saturday, before all the events had taken place, President Trump made a statement where he condemned the violence at the event. Cut one, go.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides. It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time.
All right, that ought to do it. Can we get back to business as usual now? Apparently not. The media had one of their predictable conniption fits over this one sentence. In fact, Mr. Chris Chaliza of the Fake News Network got so triggered that he wrote a 3-page rant about the speech. If it was in audio form, I would need a rabid attack dog to read the script. But here is the first paragraph. Both sides don't scream racist and anti-Semitic things at people with whom they disagree. They don't base a belief system on the superiority of one race over others. They don't get into fistfights with people who don't see things their way. They don't create chaos and leave a trail of injured behind them. Well, if you'll allow me to work backwards from this paragraph. Oh yes, they do, Chris. Have you not been following Antifa? Have you forgotten DC, January 20th, 2017, the day that Antifa rioted through the streets and caused about $100,000 in property damage? That's called, what exactly was your word? Creating chaos. Do you remember Berkeley, California? Did you even hear about Berkeley, California? 2 times Antifa attacked the city of Berkeley. 2 times. They pepper sprayed women in the face. They beat people with sticks and bike locks. They set property on fire. The fact of the matter is, Chris, in your words, Antifa does get into fist fights with people who don't see things their way. Antifa does create chaos. Antifa does leave a trail of injured behind them. And as for the race stuff, Chris, have you heard of Black Lives Matter? Maybe you just haven't heard the things that their leaders say about other races. Let me educate you. Here, this is from BLM Montreal founder Yusra K. Ali. Are you reading this, Chris? You're fluent in the English language, I know, because you wrote this article. White skin is subhuman. That's the definition of racial supremacy. You simply don't know what you're talking about, Chris. But you weren't done, were you? What Trump is doing here is preemptively absolving himself of blame for creating a political climate in the country in which people like these Unite the Right demonstrators feel emboldened enough to rally in public. Not my fault, Trump is saying. There were hate groups and hate speech under Obama, too. With someone dead and more than 24 people injured, this is, of course, not the time for assigning blame. Again, allow me to work backwards. Chris, you are totally unaware of yourself. You are in the midst of assigning blame to the alt-right and to Donald Trump, but you think it necessary to attempt to steer blame away from Obama. But in fact, the president is right on this point. The race supremacy hate group known as Black Lives Matter began operations under Obama. But you have to know this. You just have to. You work for the Fake News Network. You covered Black Lives Matter during events like Ferguson and Baltimore. You must know that they've been around for longer than 8 months. This is a hate group peddling hate speech that absolutely existed and was endorsed by President Obama. Now, naturally, the White House attempted to address the media firestorm. After all, this isn't the George Bush 2.0 administration, so some White House officials sought out news reporters and columnists in the media to clarify the president's statements. One official reached out to Politico to say, "Of course that includes white supremacists, KKK, neo-Nazis, and all extremist groups. Of course!" but the media was having none of it. Search the question, why doesn't Donald Trump condemn white supremacists, and you'll find stories from places like thestar.com, Weekly Standard, Huffington Puffington Post, and Washington Compost, and on and on and on ad nauseum. So the president decided he needed to make a second statement. This was on Monday also. Cut to go.
To anyone who acted criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
Now, you heard him here restate his earlier response. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. And now he adds by name white nationalists, KKK, and neo-Nazis. But that still wasn't enough. As with the earlier question, just search, why did it take Trump so long to condemn white nationalism? Quote-unquote comedian Stephen Colbert quote-unquote grilled Anthony Scaramucci over the question. DailyNews.com ran a column on the question. The goalposts were denounce white supremacy. So the president denounces white supremacy, and so the goalposts were moved to denounce white supremacy faster. And so the president decided he needed to address the subject again. And this is where people lost their fragile little snowflake ever-loving minds. Be advised, the following is not in any way a dramatization of the response. Be advised, the following is not in any way a dramatization of the response.
This is unacceptable!
What exactly did the president say that was so evil and unacceptable? Let's have a listen in on cut 3, go.
But when you say the alt-right, define alt-right to me. You define it. Go ahead.
Now, on this one, Ben Shapiro, who I have a lot of respect for, no doubt is a more knowledgeable person than I am, apparently didn't understand what was going on. The phrase that he used was, the president drew a blank on who the alt-right is. That's not even close to what's going on. If you're going to talk about terms that are manipulated by both sides of the issue, you need to be on the same page when using the term. The president was asking the infobabe to get him on the same page. Because if Trump says alt-right and only means white supremacists, white nationalists, KKK, etc., then he might mean something different than what the infobabe means when she says alt-right, which she surely means people like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Alex Jones, etc. It's actually to the left's benefit to leave the definition open because they can lump more and more people in there. And that's got to be exactly why the infobabe fell back on Maverick McCain's definition, so that she didn't have to define the term for the rest of the media. She could leave it open. So he's not drawing a blank, Ben. It's just not the case. And the next thing that the president said that stirred everyone up was cut 4, go.
Okay, what about the alt-left that came charging at, excuse me, what about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
This is Senator,
Let me ask you this. What about the fact that they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do.
And he's absolutely right. They do. The quote-unquote alt-left, that's Sean Hannity's term, Antifa, charges people with clubs, swinging clubs, and attacking people. And that's only half of the violence that the president denounced last Saturday. He wants the media and Americans to understand that it was not just the right that was violent. It was the left. It was Antifa. I guarantee you, if Antifa had not been there, there would not have been an issue. It's Antifa that brings the violence everywhere they go. Cut 5 to wrap up the press conference. Go.
And you have you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent.
Listen, he's decrying both sides. This includes all of the bad guys that you nutcases in the media are crying and moaning about. This is good enough. This is exactly what you asked for. And by continuing to moan and complain, you're moving the goalposts. I would be remiss to address the maybe poorly worded statements by the president where he said there were some people at the rally that are being treated unfairly. Now remember, he said on both sides. I don't know what people from Antifa are being treated unfairly by the media, but he said there were some people at this rally that simply didn't want their historical monument taken down, which is most likely not inaccurate. If I was at that rally, I would not be a Nazi. I would not be a member of the KKK. I would be there to support not having the statue taken down. I wouldn't have gone to a place like that because I wouldn't want the trouble, but the people that are brave enough to go out and endure that kind of an environment for the sake of keeping a historical landmark were probably not members of the alt-right. They probably were not there to endorse white supremacy. This is not an unreasonable thing to say. But that's the thing. That's what I'm sick and tired of. The left's attempts to hold Republicans and conservatives responsible for the actions and rhetoric of fringe authoritarian right groups, which we want nothing to do with, by the way. There is no place in the Republican Party or the conservative movement for people that peddle identity politics, and we go above and beyond to discourage the peddlers of white identity politics. Conservatives run as fast as they can from anything that Richard Spencer, David Duke, and their ilk touch. They have a reverse Midas touch when it comes to attracting right-leaning people. Look at the Reform Party, which Trump was a member of, and he broke and ran from as soon as David Duke signed up. Look, again, as mentioned in the last video, at the dueling free speech rallies in D.C., one of which was organized by conservatives, and as soon as Richard Spencer put his foot in the door, all the conservatives ran and formed the other one. The only reason to ask the question of Republicans and conservatives, do you disavow, is the assumption that there is comradeship between conservatives and white identity politics, which is the assumption that I'm sick of. Not only has this never been the case, but it is demonstrably not the case. If anyone has to answer for endorsing violence and bigotry, it's the left. The left peddles race, gender, and identity politics. The left peddles political violence. The policies and rhetoric advocated by the left have the body count to answer for. So I am done starting with the assumption that I have anything to answer for. The movements and politics that I side myself with do not have a dang thing to answer for. I'm done going on the defensive when it comes to denouncing the behavior that is endorsed by one political group only, and that is the left. So if you've come to this channel looking for someone to explicitly state that Nazis and the KKK are evil, I'm sorry, you're a century late. It's been recorded that these two groups are evil. No one likes them. It's communists, socialists, and the modern American liberal that has a body count and evil deeds that are unanswered for. Okay. I feel my blood pressure rising, so that's going to do it for this video. Share and subscribe. Check out my Twitter and Minds.com pages for more interaction, and my Patreon and PayPal pages to donate. For more information on this event, I strongly recommend the videos done by V. Sargon of Akkad and Stephen Crowder that are linked in the description. Good night and God bless.